Hi guys, in this video we're going to be looking at these blasts from the past.
Gruffy Crow.
Okay, so my mum recently cleared out her attic and wanted to get rid of a bunch of my old stuff that had been there for many years. Included in this was a load of classic toys like Pogs, Mighty Max, Marbles, Monsters in My Pocket, all the classics. But also buried right under that was my old paint sets. Now, I was never that into Warhammer and stuff when I was little, but what I did have is I did like painting some of the figures, and I had a completely random selection of whatever figures were sort of that I liked the look of and stuff that I daubed some paint on. And then I sort of didn't do anything with the sort of hobby for a number of years until I was a teenager, and then we are where we are today, many years later. So these were quite a cool thing to dig up because I thought they were long lost, because they don't just have paints in. So this is a Citadel colour paint set. I don't know if it came with these guys. I don't remember ever really having a marine. And we have some paints in here. Brush from BT's, which I think was the old toy shop, wasn't it? That's cool. I clearly didn't know a lot about brush care back then. Not the tidiest brush in the world, like a Humbrol one I think. Probably won't be using those. So we seem to have a selection of minis jammed in here. What appears to be quite a nice, maybe Jez Goodwin elf. Oh, it's from Marauder. I always did like the sort of Marauder miniatures. This one too. If you know what these are specifically, I'd love to see what they are in the comments. Feel free to sort of put links to Stuff of Legend or whatever if you can find these ones. These are very weirdly dressed. Mostly naked elf. It says Wood Elf 20. Got this one that's labelled Paladin. This is GW 1981. That could be quite a nice mini actually. Got another Marauder one. Can't read what it says. The white undercoat on these boys is quite chunky. So it'd be interesting to see how different these minis look after a bit of a wash. Got what appears to be another Wood Elf here with some very manky blue tack attached. Let's pull that away. So another Marauder Wood Elf, this time number 4. So these, if I remember correctly, and I've had one of these work until fairly recently, this style of paint pot, but these seem to last forever, and I have not touched these paints apart from bringing them home. I've not opened them, but this snakebite leather sounds wet. It's good, guys. That looks, wow. I've got paints that I bought like last week that aren't even that good nick. Wow, original GW snakebite leather, that is a treat. I never used washers. I never really understood, I don't think, what the point of those were, so that sounds wet as well. But there appears to be some separation. But I wonder if that's recoverable. We do have the brown wash I seem to have got a bit more use out of, or spilt, looking at it. The silver sounds slightly wet, but oh, definitely separated. But possibly recoverable again. These all, even this one that's the lid's not been shut for 20 years, there's still liquid paint in there that looks like it could just do with a mix. This enchanted blue, that sounds awesome. It looks like a nice colour. That is a gorgeous colour. What else we got? We got bronzed flesh, goblin green. Shout out to Johnny Watson, he'd love a bit of that for his bases. Some traditional goblin green. Scorpion green, I know that was a favoured one. And some classic blood red. Oh, which sadly appears to be the only one without life in. Oh no, there's a dribble. That's actually, wow, that is a big win. These are going to go on the paint rack and get some more mix up, and we might have another look at those in a sec. But I'm really happy with that as a little haul. That could be some really cool paints. Now the second box This is kind of interesting because I never played any kind of sci-fi stuff when I was younger. Well, I never played anything, but I never even was interested in the sci-fi side of things. But this is a Chaos paint set. This paint set contains at least 5 of the colours shown. The remaining paints may vary from those illustrated. So something that sounds like it might have been a bit of a bargain bin buy. That's a cool piece of art though. I wonder if we could take this label off and frame that somehow. Epic battle paint set. So we've got another selection of paints here. I'm not bothered about these. So a couple of Humbrol acrylics that look like they might have come with a Spitfire or something similar. But once again, these are wet. You might have to let me know in the comments if these are older or newer than the Hex bottles, because I don't remember. But these are very much like the bottles that your Foundry and Coat d'Arms paints come in now. Very, very similar bottles. So we've got a Battle Green, sounds good. We've got a Codex Grey. Seem to remember really quite liking that, and that looks almost brand new. So hopefully these remix quite nice. Ash Waste Grey, Horizon, Jungle Green, Imperial Strike Green, different label style again. Fire Orange, oh, which has got some life in it. It's top stuck down. Oh, that is gorgeous. That's going to look really nice, I think, on some of the models I'm working on at the moment as a highlight. Sulphur Desert Yellow. It's a really interesting colour. And a Night World Blue. And once again, lovely rich colours on these. Like, I don't think any of the Foundry ones especially, but even some of the Coat d'Arms ones I've been using have got those kind of vivid colours. Lovely. We also have a heavy duty Sheffield steel razor blade. Handy. A nice selection of old square bases. These might have actually been for the elves over here. Quite a cool little sort of chaosy shield. That will definitely come in handy down the line somewhere. So yeah, another awesome haul of very usable looking paints. We've saved the best till last. One of the things sandwiched in with all this was this set here. So an interesting selection of stickers. We've got a actual Games Workshop sticker for £1, but then we've got a £3.99. So these clearly weren't bought when they came out, maybe, or something. That's a odd arrangement. The plastic is dead, so I don't think we're going to worry about these being pristine in blister. And they are Chaos Dwarves, as it says there. Now, I've not really looked at these other than seeing that they were there and being quite impressed that I'd found them. We've got crossbowmen here with little horns. I don't recall I've ever seen these models. So we've got 2 of one sculpt. I like this guy. He's got a little chaos symbol on his helmet and another little mustachioed biker type fella here. We've got 4 little plastic crossbows. A cool little sprue, and I guess you just sort of, I'm not sure how this really goes very well. I'll have to look at some example images really of how the best way to pose these crossbows into these hands would be. This one makes the most sense because he's got a little bolt ready to go, so if you put the dimple down there, it looks good. Whereas these two, so I'll have to look into that. But I think these guys are worthy of a video in themselves. Let me know what you guys think, whether you'd like to see me build these, snip these ancient bases and crossbows off the sprues and paint these guys up, or what you think I should do with them. I've got my salsa jar of doom here. I've actually started a couple of videos revolving around this. We've got 16.5.22 and 5.7.22 on these jars. So some of the models have been in here almost a year. We've got some pretty cool classic demons in here. But let's throw in our sacrifices, because I don't think my paint job as a kid was really up to scratch. I think we can probably do a better job now. So this is actually full of acetone-free nail varnish remover, so it won't take long for this to break down those thick layers of 90s paint, especially with it being a brush-on primer. So I'm going to leave them in there just for a couple of hours and we'll take a look at them. Or potentially a year or two, knowing me. Okay, we've got our Squire undercoated and put on a makeshift painting handle. And let's have a look at what colours we are going to use on him. Prop these up in front of me like I used to. As I said, this is kind of what I used to do. Prop them up in front of me. I do remember that, which is probably why I've turned to paint racks like this nowadays. So normally when I start a model, I start with flesh. So what have we got flesh-wise? We've got some bronzed flesh, 2 pots of skull white, not an awful lot. So bronzed flesh it is. We've also got a flesh wash. I think we're going to want a little tad of white if there's some in here. Clean up these brushes best I can, so let's see how useful they are. Paint-wise, looks pretty good. I'm going to paint out of the bottle. A, because that's the way I used to, and B, because I still do. I'm still a heathen. Oh, but I might not want to for this. This is thick. This bronze flesh is not a bad old colour, actually. Possibly a little bit more yellow than I'd use nowadays. So while that's drying, I'm going to have a little think about the other colours we're going to use here. I think we're going to go for a red and blue. So I think the main colour is probably going to be this blood red, this night world blue, and I think we might hit the hair with this sulphur desert yellow. And unfortunately, I have already switched to this Rosemary and Crow #1 brush. The 30-year-old BT's brush, just too soft on the end there, just not enough flick. Excellent coverage on these so far. Really impressed with it. So the majority of this model is going to be silver, I think. Now the only silver I have to hand here is this mithril silver, and I don't even have any black to tone this down. So I think I am going to cheat a little, I'm afraid, guys. I'm going to grab some of this P3 pig iron, and I'm just going to give all the metal parts under the coat with that. Just, yeah, sorry, it's a bit of a cheat. While taking stock here of metallics as well, I've noticed I don't actually have any gold either. Okay, looking nice and shiny. I reckon we've probably given the face and hair enough time. I'm going to try something out a little bit mad, and I'm going to try it on the sword hilt as well. I've got this mithril silver, and I'm actually going to do the sort of crown this guy's wearing in it. The more up close and personal I get with this sculpt, the more I really like it. I'm going to try covering the whole bunch in this flesh wash. Now what I'm hoping for here is not only shading the face, but also shading the hair, and maybe even turning that crown gold. Oh, this wash is an interesting colour. So retro looking. Let's see how it goes on that crown. Oh yeah, I think I've definitely got what I want there. That is some nice 80s warrior coloured hair, and I think we can probably say that crown is gold now. So next up, I'm going to do the shield and the tunic in the same colours. They're going to be mirrors of each other, basically. I'm going to start off with this gorgeous blood red. Absolutely gorgeous coverage on this. Has gone on a little pink, but we'll just do 2 thin coats, it'll be fine. I'm going to replicate the same on the tunic. And then once that's dry, I'm going to stripe the opposite sides in this night world blue. That should be a lovely contrast. Actually, I've changed my mind on that. I'm going to go this enchanted blue. I am wishing I hadn't put the shield on now. That is some gorgeous colours. Loving that contrast. Quite happy with my stripe. I'm going to have a little bit of a play with this brown wash. Looks like I spilt it at some point. Not much left in here. I'm not sure there's any left in here. The way it's coming out on the base. Certainly no null oil. That one might be a write-off. Seeing as we're not shading that way, let's try some highlighting. So we've got some mithril silver, but we're not quite getting the contrast that I want. Usually at this point I'd probably slap a bunch of null oil over everything just to darken all these shadows and stuff, but I'm just trying to get the highlight to work for me instead. And it is actually looking pretty fantastic on that chainmail I just did. So same with the sword, don't have anywhere near the contrast that I normally like. I'm going to play with the blade a bit more, add some little sort of sharpening lines, scratches on there. Try and make that look sharp. I've extra highlighted the hilt and the pommel there. That's because I intend to try the same trick with the flesh wash again. Sort of using it as a glaze to try and turn this bright silver into gold. I think we've somewhat pulled that off. The last area of plain grey is his gloves. And we can't really do anything on a model like this without using some snakebite leather. But as soon as I can't fall back on a brown wash, we should start something darker. I think that'll probably work. Try this little BT's third 30 brush out, I think. Because we have got some tiny little straps and things on this armour. Actually, I don't know, this side. It could be worth it. Okay, this brush appears to either be able to hold a point or paint, and not both. Okay, happy with the tiny little armour straps that you probably won't be even able to pick up on camera. Once again, wishing we'd left this shield off, but we can be careful. I've always been the opinion, if I can see it, I can get a paintbrush to it, and if I can't see it, then what's the point worrying about it? And I think that's worked out for me here. So I'm going to immediately try and highlight that up with the snakebite. And that's okay. As I said, once again, I would rely on throwing a brown wash on that, but not available. The blood red, I'm going to try and highlight with a bit of this fire orange. And this is quite transparent, so I feel like I can build up layers a little bit. And there's something about the way these paints dry. They kind of have this sort of mottled, like super matte finish to them, which I really like. For the blue, I don't have such a nice ready-made highlight, so we've got some of this horizon blue. I think that's going to be far too extreme, so we'll knock that back with a bit of the original enchanted blue. And that has worked quite fantastically, I think. That is a lovely vivid colour. And we've just highlighted up the face again after the wash with the original bronze flesh. That's looking pretty good. Okay, so I used some of the skull white to lighten up the face a little bit more. I'm pretty happy with that's come out. I did cheat and went and found some black for the eyes, and then tried to use the skull white to put the pupils in, like I would normally, using my dot dot method. And it wasn't really bright enough, but it kind of works. It's kind of soft eyes in there. And I think we're pretty much there with the model now. I'm pretty happy, pretty simple. I am going to overcomplicate things. I'm going to try a little bit of freehand on the shield, using that sulphur colour we used for the hair originally. There we go, something a bit like that. That was just the rough first sort of scratch, but we've got a bit of a grail going on. I'm going to overlay that again with the second coat, try and firm that up a little bit. Pretty happy with that actually. And we're going to take this sunburst yellow, and we're just going to try and smooth that out a little bit more. Might need to water this down a little bit more. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. Added a little bit of shine. So the last thing we need to do is going to be his base. Now, seeing as one of the paints that we have got here is Goblin Green, I don't think we've got much choice. I'm going to start by giving the whole base a coat of the Goblin Green. Now you will notice I've done a terrible job with the tape here, and it has actually even started to peel a bit. So I'm going to get plenty of this green on and use that, hopefully stick the tape back down, smooth all that out. Already looking fabulously classic. Now I had to dig around in the depths of the boxes, my old boxes of stuff, and I found a couple of types of this sort of sawdusty style flock. This one's weird, it's got all colours, all sort of weird colours in it, but I think this has got that kind of vibe that I want. So I'm going to try something that I've not seen done before in the era of modern YouTube, but was something that was shown to me in Games Workshop a long time ago. I'm going to take my Goblin Green again, and we're going to slather this on the top, and then I'm going to try and use that to stick this flock on, which has resulted in a severely minimal amount of flock. See if we can patch in some of the missing parts. There we go. Well, do you know what? I don't hate it. I don't think I do it on my modded models, but I think that fits the vibe. I'm going to call him done. Not a bad show. Proves the point that these paints are still up to it, of painting perfectly nice minis. I said obviously if I had my normal washes and stuff, it'd look quite different, but it certainly wouldn't have maybe this old school vibe. So nice mini find, nice paint finds. Let me know if you recognise when these paints were about, or when these minis were about, down in the comments. and let me know what you think of my old hammer painting. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments. Maybe subscribe for more. And as ever, thanks for watching. Bye.